Well, welcome to Hamilton County TV. I'm Perry Williams, and of course, it's time for the Jake Gilbert Show. Welcome, Jake.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks, Perry.
Well, Coach, one of the things that I thought Richie Hall wrote a great article in the Reporter this week, and it was quoting you and Caleb King both about how much the love and adversity builds championships, and that kind of sums it up, because that's something we've talked about all year long.
Yeah.
And in this football game that was played last Friday night was a perfect time to say that. So it's playoff time, and I don't really want to talk a lot about past games because it's win and you move on, okay? But I think there's a lot of good lessons here learned in life in that football game. So let's talk a little bit about that game, especially towards the end there. I mean, everybody will say this is one of the finest football games you'll see in a long time. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, hey, life lessons. I think you have to build belief in what is possible, and it has to be true, intrinsic, substantiated belief and faith. Even when all the facts are telling you otherwise, you have to have the faith that you can do it and you can come back in life. Lesson 2 would be that things are hard. Things are tough, and they're meant to be, and it's better when they are. So like that game, for example, way more special because it was so hard on us. Well, life is that way sometimes, and you can't really have something special without it being hard. Lesson number 3 would be prepared. The more prepared you are, the more confident you are. So back to building belief, it's kind of hard to do that if you're not confident, if you don't believe in yourself. Why would anyone else believe in you as a leader? So being prepared helps with all of those things. And then I would say lesson 4, just love each other. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, I think you have to love each other through it. When it's tough love, when it's encouragement, when it's patience, forgiveness, you have to do that. Well, when stressful moments is like a hinge moment that brings that to the surface. And so you can see that very evident in the behaviors of a team when they're stressed, and when your seniors are facing the end of their careers, with 30 seconds to go, it brings that to the surface. So just really proud of our guys for buying into all of that and what we teach here, and living it out. So it was great that was on public display for everyone to see, but that's just the authentic us. I mean, that's just who we are. Hopefully, that's our true culture, and just a great opportunity to showcase it all, and glad it brought us another week together.
Yeah, Coach, Caleb had a lot of great things, because I know, like many of your football players on your team, these kids are great student athletes, okay? And one of the comments about it, he said, sure, I felt a little bit of pressure, but we practice this all the time. And he talked how you guys do that, and how times he has to run if he doesn't,
right.
And no one likes to run, especially in football equipment and that kind of stuff. So those, you put them through possibly the best scenarios to be successful. Is that not true? I mean,
yeah, we do pressure kicks every Monday. So, those big old line guys, they don't like to run much. And so every time that Caleb or one of our other kickers makes a kick, it cuts out a sprint. So if they miss, then we all have to run an extra. So it's a lot of pressure on the kicker. But, I would say football's such a team sport, but the closest it is to an individual sport is that kicker out there in that moment. And man, I would never know what that was like. That's got to be a tremendous amount of pressure. So for him to have the guts and toughness to go out there and not only face the moment but succeed in the moment speaks volumes of his character and his toughness, but also our preparation. And so very happy for Caleb to have that moment. And Thaddeus O'Neal was the snapper, and Alex Wolf was a holder. Let's not forget about those guys.
Yeah, those guys are all important parts.
I'm sure they and their parents were probably all shaking like a leaf, but those kids went out there and got it done and executed perfect. Even the play before, where Maximus Webster takes the ball to the center of the field, takes in slides, and call timeout. And we've practiced that play for 10 years and never used it. 10 years of practice have gone into that moment, and we've never once called that play. By gosh, we called it, we executed it when we needed it, though. And so I was very proud of our staff and our kids.
And the one thing about it, you can tell that you spend a lot of time on clock management, okay? Because one of the things that Caleb said that, when they did score, there was still time left on that clock, which I think was around 35 seconds or 30 seconds or so. But, Maximum Webster, which he has done his entire career, comes out there and completes 3 passes.
I think we had 4 in a row.
Yeah. 3 or 4 passes. So, it's just the calm and the ability. And, that's the one thing about it, and being around this team the last couple of years and broadcasting a lot of games, it's just, there are a lot of great players. I mean, the old cliche, the next guy up or the next guy steps up. I mean, the entire 2 years, that's the way it's went, okay? I mean, sure, Hauser and Webster and some of your other great players always have great games, but there are always somebody on that football team that steps up and does a great job.
Yeah, the depth and development of the program overall. Again, we've talked about you don't want to just have a great team because you have a couple of great players. You want to have a great program. And so, you graduate a guy from Mason Peening, like Mason Peening last year, and you're like, oh gosh, we can never replace him. And you can't because it's amazing. But then Jackson Wasserstrom comes around, and man, he's pretty darn good too. And Ian Bruck, and other guys step in there, Nick DiPasquale, Gabe Arambolis, and you're like, I guess we can still win a game here. And so you have to just build that. Right now in the playoffs, the biggest advantage of the playoffs is your younger players get all these extra practices that the other teams don't get. So when you go deep in the playoffs, 5 games, that's a half of a season. That someone who gets beat week 1, it's done for their freshmen and sophomores. All of our guys get all those added practices. So over the course of 2 years, if you make it back to back, my gosh, the rich get richer. And so you understand all that extra player development. And that's why teams build empires. Whether that be Warren Central's had a run, Ben Davis had a run, Center Grove's had a run, Carmel's had a run, Cathedral, whoever it is, those are some things they all have in common. They stacked a back-to-back situation, and then that developed their up-and-coming kids, new pal, to where their whole program's just good.
Yeah. And the one thing about it, you've talked about these kids since they were freshmen, that they were coming, this senior class, okay? And, you take at the beginning of the season, you and I would come in there every week, and before we went on the air, you talk, man, I'm still not at full strength, and we're still short. And then you have a senior like Graybill playing outstanding defense. He missed 3 games this season.
He missed more than that. He missed 5 or 6.
Yeah, so he missed a lot of games, but right now he's playing really good football.
Absolutely, best football of the year for him.
And that's when you want it.
The healthiest we've been.
Yeah.
Friday night. So, and that's tough to say this part of the year. Kudos to Tavio Henson, our strength and conditioning coach.
Oh, absolutely.
Our guys healthy and ready, and but yeah, that's exciting to get all your guys out there that like you envisioned it.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you have another tough game coming up. You're going to travel to Fort Wayne and play Fort Wayne Carroll, okay, who beat up pretty good on Warsaw last week in the sectional championship. Let's talk a little bit about Fort Wayne Carroll.
Carroll's 10-1. Great record, obviously. They won the Fort Wayne League up there, which traditionally has great teams. Snyder's had several years where they've beaten up on Hamilton County teams. Dwinger's won who knows how many state championships. Homestead has been tremendous. So those 3 teams for sure. Lures has won, I think, the 2nd most state championships in Indiana history. So there's great pride that's come out of that league. And so for Carroll to win it, they've made a huge commitment. They've got a facility like ours. They've got great teams. Their players You know, their coach has been there, I think, 10 or 11 years. Has been very successful. They have a tremendous quarterback, and he's the real deal. He reminds me a lot of our guy, so that tells you, I think, a lot of him. They had an amazing receiver. We'll see if he plays in our game or not, but they've got a really fast guy. Then on defense, there's 4 or 5 guys that I think are really good defenders, and those guys are quick and fast to the ball and pretty physical players. So this is the difference, I think, in their team from last year. They've always scored a lot of points. They score 40-some points a game, which is third in Indiana, but this year they're third in Indiana in defense. They're only giving up 11-point-something points per game, and so their growth defensively, I think, has been a catalyst for the improvement in their team overall.
I thought in looking at the stats and everything, I thought it was kind of interesting that both teams, you and Carroll, lost your first game and then have run the table. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting that only guys like me think that kind of stuff.
I saw it too.
Yeah.
We both have some good win streaks going.
Yeah. So
have one we would like to have back. And
absolutely. Yeah, that is. And I'm sure they feel the same way.
I'm sure they do. So, but they've done a good job developing their team over the course of the year, and I feel like they're playing much better football than they were the first couple of weeks. So, interesting. Both of us traded that first game because you want to see, well, how does someone beat you? And I think they've improved quite a bit.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I appreciate you talking with us today and also talking a little bit about the beliefs and the progress that you've made with this program here at Westfield, and wish you the best of luck up there at Carroll, and hopefully you'll bring home a regional championship and maybe be able to host another game. You always want one more game, right, Coach?
I hope we have 3 wins left in us, but for that to be the case, we've got to get it done. We're very proud of where we're at. That was our 6th sectional championship in 8 years. But the only thing better than that would be another regional championship. So if we can do that, then that would be amazing. And it's an 8 p.m. start, so all of our followers need to know that. And we're ready, and we'll be prepared, and won't let you down. So thanks, and go Rocks.
Thank you, Coach.